Hey everyone, it's Alex from EDD Academy, and today we're going to be looking at the Math No Calculator section of SAT's Official Practice Test number 5. Okay, starting off with question 1, which reads, which of the following is an equation of line L in the xy plane above? Well, right off the bat, we want to look at the graph we're given and determine any defining features. So, at first, I see the graph passes through the y-axis at the point 0, 1, so its y-intercept is 0, 1. And because these answer choices look rather simple, this might be the only piece of information we need. So let's go through our answer choices and use process of elimination. Right off the bat, A and B, those are vertical and horizontal lines, so those wouldn't fit this. And C, the line y equals x, we know that has no y-intercept, it passes through the origin. So that leaves us with choice D. D is the correct answer to number 1. Okay, question 2. The circle above with center O has a circumference of 36. What is the length of major arc AC? So this length right here. Well, this type of question, it immediately pops out to me that we're trying to relate the length or the circumference of the circle with some angle measures. So let's see what we know. A and C here seem to be perpendicular, denoted by this 90 degrees symbol here. So that means this angle is 90 degrees, but that also means that this minor arc AC has 90 degrees of arc out of this whole 360 degrees circle. And so we know what ratio this minor arc has to the whole circle, and we also know the circumference of the whole circle. So it's going to be the same proportion. So 90 over 360 times 36. So this proportion is 1/4. Minor arc AC has 1/4 of the total degrees of the circle, so that means it's also going to have 1/4 of the total circumference of the circle. So, and then 1/4 times 36 is just 36 over 4, so that's 9. Answer choice A is correct. Number 3. What are the solutions of the quadratic equation 4x squared minus 8x minus 12 equals 0? Okay, let's just rewrite it out here. It seems that the first thing we should do is divide all of these terms by a 4. Factor out a 4 from each of these terms, because that would greatly simplify our quadratic equation. So factoring is basically dividing, so we want to divide each of these terms by 4. Then we have x squared minus 2x minus 3 equals 0. Cancel that out basically, because if we divide both sides by 4, 0 divided by 4 is just 0. So x squared minus 2x minus 3 equals 0. And this is pretty easily factorable. This just factors to x plus 1 times x minus 3 equals 0. And if we solve for x, that means x equals -1 and positive 3. And which of these answer choices fits that? That's answer choice B. Question 4. Which of the following is an example of a function whose graph in the xy plane has no x-intercepts? So no x-intercepts means it doesn't pass the x-axis like this. That's an x-intercept. So let's just look at each of these answer choices and try to either visualize or graph them and use process of elimination. So a linear function whose rate of change is not 0. That means it has some positive or negative slope. And if we graph, let's say with a linear function with a positive slope, it clearly is going to pass through the x-axis. So A is not our answer. B, a quadratic function with real zeros. I'll label it like this. So if a quadratic function has real zeros, it means that's what a zero is. It's an x-intercept. So it's going to pass through the x-axis at some point. So B is not our answer. What about C? A quadratic function with no real zeros. Now this, graphically, if a quadratic function has no real zeros, it means the opposite of this statement, so it will not pass through the x-axis at any point, which means it has no x-intercepts. C is our answer. Number 5. In the equation above, k is a constant. If x equals 9, what is the value of k? Let's write it out here, and then there isn't really a strategy to this question, it's just plugging in 9 and working with the algebra. So if we plug this in here, square root of k plus 2 minus 9 equals 0. And we want to solve for k, so let's try to isolate it. So we can add a 9 to both sides. So square root of k plus 2 equals 9. And we want to get rid of this square root, so we can just square both sides. Then we have k plus 2 equals 9 squared. So k plus 2 equals 81. Subtract 2 from both sides, k equals 79. So number 5 is D. Number 6. Which of the following is equivalent to the sum of the expressions a squared minus 1 and a plus 1? So this seems to be pretty simple. We're just adding them. Okay, so let's look for like terms. A squared is the only squared term, so we're going to leave that be. This plus a is the only a term, so we're going to leave that be. And this negative 1 and plus 1, well, negative 1 plus 1, that's just 0. So we have a squared plus a. Which does that match? Answer choice A. Number 6 is A. Number 7. Jackie has 2 summer jobs. She works as a tutor, which pays $12 an hour, and she works as a lifeguard, which pays $9.50 an hour. She can work no more than 20 hours per week, but she wants to earn at least 220 per week. Which of the following systems of inequalities represents the situation in terms of x and y, where x is the number of hours she tutors and y is the number of hours she works as a lifeguard? So let's just write this out bigger here. X is hours tutored, y is hours lifeguarded. So let's see. If she works X hours as a tutor and she earns $12 per hour, then she earns 12x dollars from tutoring, right? We just multiply the two together. And similarly, if she works Y hours as a lifeguard and she gets paid $9.50 per hour, then she has a total of 9.5 Y dollars. So in total, that's just 12x. So let's total. That's 12x, the amount of money from tutoring, and 9.5y, the amount of money from lifeguarding added together. So that's just 12x plus 9.5y. So that's the total amount. That's the total amount of money she earns in a week if she works X hours as a tutor and Y hours as a lifeguard. So what else do we want to know? She wants to earn at least $220 a week. So at least $220. So this total sum should be greater than or equal to 220 because she can either make 220 or make more. And then there's also another condition. She can work no more than $20 per hour. And because this is not involving money, we don't have to worry about this $12 per hour or $9.50 per hour. We're just worrying about X and Y. So the total X plus Y is less than or equal to 20. And these two inequalities, which answer choice has them? Well, that's answer choice C. Number 8. In air, the speed of sound s in meters per second is a linear function of the air temperature T in degrees Celsius and is given by s of t equals 0.6 t plus 331.4. Which of the following statements is the best interpretation of 331.4 in this context? Well, this s of t, it's stated to be a linear function, and every linear function has the form y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. And if you've watched some of my previous walkthroughs, a lot of the time, these y-intercepts in modeling or application problems are initial values of something. Okay, so let's look at these answer choices and try to determine an initial value. Well, let's start with A. So the speed of sound in meters per second as 0 Celsius. Well, that makes sense, right? At 0 Celsius, that means the temperature is 0. That means S of t, or excuse me, that means S of 0 equals 0 plus 331.4. And that fits our description of 331.4 being both a y-intercept at the point 0, 331.4, and an initial value. So A is correct. Number 9. If x, y is a solution of the systems of equations above, and x is greater than 0, what is the value of x, y? So let's write this out here. This is a systems of equations, but it's a little different from the usual linear ones we see all the time. And usually in those, I personally like using the elimination method, but this is a little bit harder to do, so I think I'm just going to use substitution and replace y everywhere with x squared. So let's bring this here. 2 times y, so 2 times x squared plus 6 equals 2 times quantity x plus 3. So I think this is promising. We have the same variable on both sides, right? So we can just solve for it. So if we distribute this out here, 2x squared plus 6 equals, well, I want to also distribute this side out too. So expand out, 2x plus 6. So we have 2x squared plus 6 equals 2x plus 6. And we want to get all the x's on one side and set everything equal to 0 because that's easiest to work with quadratic expressions. So we can subtract 2x plus 6 from both sides, leaving us with 2x squared plus 6 minus, don't forget to distribute this negative out here, so it's minus 2x minus 6 equals 0. And if we combine like terms, this plus 6 and negative 6, that just cancels, and we have 2x squared minus 2x equals 0. Move this up here. I can see that we can factor a 2x out of this, because each term has a 2x. So if we factor out 2x, we have 2x times, so for this term we have only x remains, and for this only 1 remains. So 2x times quantity x minus 1 equals 0. Thus, 0 and 1 are our solutions for x. But that's not what the question is asking for. We want to know what the value of xy is. Well, okay. We know this is the x value we need to look at, because x is greater than 0. We can cross this out. But how do we find y? Well, we have this pretty easy to use equality right here. Y equals x squared. And x is 1, so y equals 1 squared. That means y is also 1. And that means xy is just 1 times 1, which is 1. 9 is A. Okay, number 10. The final question in today's video. If you want to catch the questions 11 through 20 of this practice test number 5, stay tuned for EDD Academy's next video. So, let's get into it. If a squared plus b squared equals z, and ab equals y, which of the following is equivalent to 4z plus 8y? Well, it seems like the question wants us to substitute this quantity here in for z and this quantity here in for y. So let's do that. Instead of 4z, we have 4 times quantity a squared plus b squared. And instead of plus 8y, we have plus 8 times ab. If we distribute this out here, we have 4a squared plus 4b squared. Make sure to distribute this 4 to both the a squared and b squared. And then plus 8ab. In this case, because these are already multiplied together, we don't multiply the 8 to both the a and b, because here there's an addition sign and here there isn't. So we have 4a squared plus 4b squared plus 8ab. But this doesn't match any of our answer choices, right? So what do? Well, I noticed that we could factor out a 4 here. It's simple. It might not be the most drastic algebraic step, but it changes what we have now. So 4 times a squared plus b squared plus 2ab. In this a squared plus b squared plus 2ab, we can rewrite that as a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. And this should be a pretty familiar form to you. If you've been studying for the SAT, you've done Algebra 2, whatever. My point is that this is just an expansion of a squared plus b squared. Or, excuse me, a plus b quantity squared. But don't forget this 4 out here. So 4 times a plus b quantity squared. And this 4, we have to notice that because it's included in this, 4 is also the result of something being squared, right? And what is that? Like, what's squared? Let's call it x. X squared equals 4. Well, that's 2. So the coefficient on this a and b is going to be 2. So we have 2a plus 2b quantity squared. And what is that? That's answer choice B.